Our next session speaker is Andrew Penkenthman, Managing Director and CEO of Ardea Resources. Andrew is a resource sector executive and geologist with over 28 years experience in the resource industry. He's going to provide us today with an update on Ardea's globally significant Kalgoorlie nickel project.
Thanks very much, and firstly, congratulations to the Diggers and Dealers Organising Committee for putting on another fantastic event, and it's great to be back here again this year and give you a first-hand update on the progress the Ardea team have made over the course of the last 12 months, and I'll be concentrating on our flagship Kalgoorlie nickel project and the significant progress made on our Goongarrie hub. Standard disclaimer, welcome to look at this on our website and also the ASX platform. Quick corporate overview, and the key factors here are the team. We've got a fantastic team with the essential local knowledge and experience and working with quality partners to ensure quality outcomes. We've maintained a very disciplined capital structure, just under 172 million shares on issue, and that's for a company that first listed on ASX in February 2017. The board and management team are very much aligned with our shareholders and all have significant equity in the company. A little bit now on the nickel and cobalt market fundamentals, and there's never been a better time for both nickel and cobalt, and that's driven essentially by the electric vehicle sector and also energy storage sector. And over the course of the last few years, we've been engaging with multiple potential partners, whether they be lithium-ion battery manufacturers, OEMs and large mining houses. And the lithium-ion battery manufacturers are predominantly moving towards high nickel cathodes, so that's higher density and greater battery life and greater range. So we're going to see these demand forecasts for nickel and cobalt continue to increase. So to set the scene, back in 2020, we had demand of about 2.2 million tonnes of nickel. By 2040, that's forecast to be over 6 million tonnes that contain nickel. So it's where the supply is going to come from, and then it's a similar thematic for cobalt. And we've seen through the Inflation Reduction Act out of the US and the EU Critical Raw Materials Act that there's a big push on diversity of supply and supply chain security, and that's where jurisdictions like Australia have a huge advantage over the rest of the world. So just to put the KMP into perspective, we've got 6.1 million tonnes that contain nickel and 386,000 tonnes that contain cobalt. It is by far and away the largest nickel cobalt project in Australia and one of the largest in the world. And we've recently concluded a PFS on our Goongarrie hub, which is the most advanced asset. And again, there's 4 million tonnes that contain nickel and 250,000 tonnes that contain cobalt. So, you know, we're seeing billions of dollars spent on the lithium-ion battery sector, but I think a lot of people have been losing sight, where's the critical supply going to come from? And that's where large-scale strategic projects like the KMP come into their own. And what makes the Goongarrie hub unique and best in class, you know, we've got this orange iron-rich material shown on the image on the right. That's goethite, so that's the best-in-class ore feed. So it's free dig. You can break it apart in your hands, so there's a very low energy requirement for your comminution circuit. There's very low acid consumptions. There's a very low short resident time and superior rheology. So yes, grade's an important factor, but no ore type is better than the goethite, and that comprises 69% of our ore reserve and plant feed at the Goongarrie hub. So it's a significant point of difference. Where's our project located? So all of the Goongarrie hub tenements are shown here in green, and we enjoy the best location in the world. We're only 70 kilometres northwest of where we stand today, and of course we've got leverage to the infrastructure, skilled workforce and great supportive community. And then we've got the other Kalgoorlie nickel projects out to the east, Kalpini and the like. So that provides an internal pipeline of growth for Ardea. We're not dependent on M&A. We've got the project pipeline already within the company. So this plan tells you pretty well all you need to know. So the recently defined ore reserves are shown in red, and we've got 21 kilometres of semi-continuous strike from Scotia Dam in the south to Goongarrie Hill in the north, and then we're going to have satellite ore feed from Highway 30 kilometres to the north and Siberia North 30 kilometres to the west. Now, just from these six deposits, we've defined a globally significant ore reserve of over 1.3 million tonnes of contained nickel metal and 99,000 tonnes of contained cobalt. And there's 3 other deposits that comprise over 150 million tonnes of potential ore feed in the future that weren't even included in the PFS. We've defined a plus 40-year ore reserve at Goongarrie already, and obviously there's significant life beyond that. This is going to be a multi-generational project development. And underpinning that resource, there's over 5,000 drill holes for over 250 kilometres. So we've had the time to do things correctly. You know, we're not struggling to secure drill rigs. We've defined the resources to underpin the quality of this project. So here's a cross-section through Goongarrie South, and I just highlight that sort of most laterites are sort of 20 to 40 metres in thickness. They're sub-horizontal, but you can see what we call the deep V in this cross-section. In Goongarrie South's the jewel in the crown, and the reason for that is we've had preferential weathering, and we used to have Lake Goongarrie many million years ago overlying the deposit, and we've had multiple movements in the water table that have leached out the silicate minerals, and that's what leaves us with that premium goethite ore. And you can see some of their drill hole intercepts, such as 100 metres at 1% nickel. So that's another factor that makes Goongarrie the best in class. So we've discussed the ore reserve, and what that's going to enable us to do is to produce on average 30,000 tonnes of nickel and 2,000 tonnes of cobalt per year for over 40 years. So you can see the strategic nature of this project and how that can feature in the long-term planning and development of lithium-ion battery factories. The other key thing is our mineralised neutraliser. We've recently lodged an international patent application to protect our research and development breakthrough. So at the base of the laterite profile, you've got a magnesium-rich saprock that can be mined in a large-scale conventional open pits with a low strip ratio, and that can be used to neutralise our acid discharge, and that gives us an incredible advantage. We're not having to import limestone. We're not having the carbon emissions associated with transporting that material to site. And in addition, we get extra nickel and cobalt production units out of the mineralised neutraliser. So over 2,700, literally 3 tonnes of nickel per year from the mineralised neutraliser. It's a revolutionary breakthrough, and that contributes to our very competitive low OPEX. Just a schematic now of the plant layout, and you can see it's located immediately south of our Goongarrie South deposit that contains the highest grade and best quality ore. So it's a short haul distance from the mine to the plant. And importantly, every aspect of the process plant utilises existing technology off the shelf that's successfully utilised at other operations around the world. So this technology, particularly HPAL, has been around since the 1960s. It works very well, as we've seen from companies like Sumitomo Metal Mining in the Philippines and some of the more recent HPAL developments in Indonesia. The financial metrics from our recently reported PFS are nothing short of outstanding. I've discussed the 40-year ore reserve, and the key highlights here are the EBITDA. So $800 million Australian every year for 40 years on average. EBITDA margin of 65%. You know, you don't get these long-lived cash flow projects. This is the launching pad for Ardea to become a mid-tier and then ultimately an ASX 100 company. This is the launching pad for the company. NPV on a post-tax basis is just under $5 billion. Internal rate of return 23%. project payback upon production just over 3 years. These are a very impressive set of numbers and a credit to the Ardea team and key service providers who have been working with us to complete this work. Just a quick snapshot of our industry competitive and low C1 OPEX under $6,000 a tonne. And once we achieve project ramp up after year 1, the following 5 years, that OPEX will be below $4,000 a tonne. So again, these are some of the features that add to the competitiveness of the Goongarrie Hub project development. And then the pathway to project development I mentioned last year the quality of some of the potential partners we've been engaging with, and on the 5th of July we announced the signing of an MOU with the Japanese consortium consisting of Sumitomo Metal Mining, who are the most successful nickel laterite project development and operations company in the world, and Mitsubishi Corporation and Mitsui & Co Limited, who respectively are the largest and second largest trading houses in Japan. These are giant companies, incredibly successful, and over the long term, we're absolutely certain they will make quality partners and the dream team. So we're currently working with them to conclude their due diligence on the KMP, Goongarrie Hub, to define a DFS scope of work, a budget, which they plan to fully fund in due course, and obviously the ultimate is the project development capital to see this project reach its full potential. This is an outstanding outcome for Ardea, and the Japanese have been fantastic to work with, and we look forward to a long-term relationship. Just to highlight now the significance of the Goongarrie Hub development, you can see on the x-axis annual nickel production and on the y-axis EBITDA. So there are so few projects that can deliver nickel production at scale, and that's the standout, and that enables long-term strategic planning. So that puts us head and shoulders above our peers. And again, we've mentioned the significant size of the KMP resource, and again, it provides us with that internal pipeline of growth projects. Currently with the MOU with the Japanese consortiums considered on the Goongarrie Hub, and that leaves the other projects 100% retained by Ardea. Our ESG credentials have been strengthened through the completion of the PFS. We're going to carry the in-pit tailings disposal strategy forward into the DFS. So the neutralised tails slurry will be pumped into the open pit voids, allowed to dry out, then there'll be a layer of waste rock, and then ultimately a layer of stockpile topsoil, and that'll be progressively revegetated concurrent with operations. We've got industry-leading low CO2 emissions as independently verified by Scope 1, 2 and 3 survey. We've also identified a number of value enhancement opportunities that will be further evaluated during the DFS, and these include the addition of a scandium recovery. And again, Sumitomo Metal Mining are one of the largest scandium producers in the world. That's another critical mineral and another potential byproduct stream. We can further optimise the processing circuit with the residence time in the autoclaves. The PFS base case was 70 minutes. We've got test work supporting this being as low as 40 minutes. So using something like 60 minutes or lower will be carried forward into the DFS, and this results in a 16% increase in tonnes through the plant and resultant production output increase. So that's a big win for us. Stage development will also be evaluated along with the remote operations centre as successfully utilised in the iron ore sector. So what I'd like to leave with you today is, if you've got any interest in nickel and cobalt, which can have to continue to grow, and we will be, the white light like lithium currently is, because there's far fewer nickel and cobalt resources in the world, you must have Ardea in your portfolio. We're located in the best operating jurisdiction in the world with direct infrastructure links. We've defined with the PFS a globally significant project development, but that's just the beginning. There's other resources to be reviewed, and the project can be scaled up accordingly. We've provided line of sight on some of the quality potential partners we've been engaging with through the Japanese consortium. Ardea still retains 100% of the offtake, and again, as I mentioned, 100% of the non-Goongarrie hub projects once we've concluded binding documents with the Japanese consortium. I haven't had time today to talk about our other projects. We've got a dominant tenement position here in the Eastern Goldfields with outstanding battery and critical minerals exploration potential. We will get back to that, but again, there's added growth there. And again, most importantly, we've got a very committed team with local experience and great local stakeholder support. So we look forward to providing you with additional updates as we progress this project. And I'd invite you to come and meet the team at booth 92. And for those of you that are coming to the site visit at 1 p.m. this afternoon, please, we'll meet out the front here. Go to site and we'll have you back in time for the dinner. And again, we've got another site visit tomorrow morning. So enjoy the rest of the event, and thanks very much for your time.